All right, welcome back, Dad.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing okay. We both got sick recently, all right?
Yeah.
And we did both get sick. Christmas came and went. The New Year came and went, and
Yeah.
we're still working.
Still working, still funneling through this weird virus that everybody was getting.
Yeah, it messed with my teeth and my ears. I still kind of got some stuff going on in my ears still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different. It was a different. It's one of those weird sicknesses that make you wonder.
Yeah, that's right.
So today, I would like to make this episode about, whenever you stray out of the line in life, whether it's in school or maybe your family, the line that your family's made, or even at work, and you maybe try to do something to better yourself or take a different path. It usually comes with a lot of hate or
You do build up some haters
yeah.
when you get out of the corral with all the rest of your coworkers. They start looking at you different. You almost become an enemy.
Yeah. You definitely become
an outsider.
It definitely puts you at a disadvantage for people to come in that, maybe doesn't like you or doesn't really have the best for you, like doesn't want you to succeed. It definitely puts a target on your back.
Yeah.
Whenever people don't, know how to handle or know how to take you, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe it's jealousy or maybe it's
a mixture of several different things.
Yeah, I think that
people see you as a threat. If you notice, when someone comes into a company and it's just your coworker, and he's headstrong, he acts different. You'll notice that some of your coworkers will start using words like, "He thinks he's too good," or "He thinks he's better than us." I've definitely heard "he thinks he's better than us," and they form an opinion. There's an old saying about first impressions. You only get a chance to make a first impression once. And, you know, once somebody makes a first impression, then it seems like their whole personality gets framed around that first impression. And if it's, like we had a coworker named Taylor, some of my other coworkers said he thinks he's better than us. I didn't get that vibe on my first impression, but that's just the way perceptions work. And perceptions is reality in a lot of cases.
But he was a good worker.
He was a good worker. I didn't ever see the reason for it. And I think if you come in to a space, you're a little bit headstrong and you want a little bit more respect than what you feel like you're getting. And if you say something, then, well, I don't like him. But it's because he stood up for himself.
Well, especially in construction, there is a lot of people that are really, really good at staying busy when there's eyes to see. And as soon as those eyes aren't around, they're really good at not getting anything done. And there are a lot of jobs that, the boss can't not be there and can't not be around. And sometimes it does show when you got an employee that can be there, but not, you don't have to always be there watching over his back. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people in the industry that can't do that. As soon as the boss is gone, there's no work getting done.
Yeah.
And if you are somebody that is more willing to, do whatever it takes, get the job done, they're paying me, well, let's get something done. You are kind of seen as kind of really a loser, right? And I think our culture is so designed on just laziness. The majority of people are just lazy.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that earlier, how people come in with a little bit of skill and a long list of demands in a company. And used to, you would come to work someplace and you drove your own self to work. But nowadays, people think they want to be delivered there in a limousine.
Oh yeah, no respect either when they're like. Normally, if you rely on somebody to pick you up, and whether it's a company truck or say your car pulling with somebody, there's a certain level of respect that should be given in that vehicle
Yeah.
because it is your way to work. It's the way you make a living, and if you don't want to drive your vehicle and you don't want to use your fuel, you got to follow some rules. But there's a lot of people that are entitled that don't think there is any rules
Yeah.
and say stuff like it's just a company vehicle or come on man it's just vape, it's just cigarettes, it's just dip, and whether or not those things bother certain people, they do bother some people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't have no respect. The same thing with a tractor. If you go work somewhere that's got some really junky equipment and then you go somewhere that's got some good equipment and they take care of it, it'll make you mad seeing somebody that's never had to run some junk
Yeah.
get out there and run with the doors open or not care about it,
Yeah.
because you've been on the other side of that and understand the consequences of people not taking care of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
One thing I see a lot is, the work, you normally jobs have a certain clique of people, and it's really distinguished between different crews on, you this crew or that crew. But even though you would all be at the same place, what do you think it is that people are so willing to compete with each other when we all have we're all in the same race on the same team?
Oh, well, you see a lot of, I mean, first of all, all of us have the same amount of power. We're all just coworkers. We're not in charge of nothing. So people start looking for advantage within the structure of being hired from the neck down. And you learn early, or I learned early on that you got to watch what you say, because one time I walked up to a coworker. I was working for Strax, and I walked up to him, and I said something negative about the boss. I can't remember the boss's name, but I said something along the lines of, our boss is kind of an idiot. And he agreed with me. He goes, "Yeah, he is an idiot." And then we parted ways, and he marched right over there to the boss and told him exactly what I said. And the reason he did that was because he was working an advantage. You know, he was working an advantage over me, and I gave him the ammunition to go and tell him what I said about him.
Oh, yeah. It's probably not good to ever voice your opinions, good or bad, about anybody at work because most people are going to go
Yeah,
even if they have been talking about somebody the whole time, they'll go directly to that person
yeah,
to tell them just to start.
yeah,
And I've seen owners do that, right?
yeah.
An owner sees two employees that look like they could form a good bond, and that bond could potentially turn towards the owner one day. He'll go ahead and drive a
You'll
wedge in
sabotage it.
between those two.
Yeah,
Say, well, those guys look like they're getting along a little too good. Let me go ahead and tell him there's some
yeah.
he said, she said stuff going on, and let's go ahead and iron that out of there. And I think it's probably because, control, trying to control the outcome, control the odds in your favor, which we're probably all guilty of. But power is the biggest thing in this world, is everybody's chasing for power.
And sometimes management tries to create a competition
Oh, yeah.
inside the help because it only benefits them. If they go up there and sow some discord into one guy by saying the other guy got twice as much done as you did yesterday, well, what's that guy going to do? He's going to try harder. And then he goes over there and tells that other guy that he's not getting as much done, that the other guy is getting more done. So so it benefits the boss, and all along he's the one over there sowing discord in between coworkers.
Yeah, and you see it play out a lot more on probably factory work, especially with maybe people snitching,
Yeah,
the tattletelling to get a pat on the back, I guess,
yeah,
or data boy. One thing I have noticed is it's kind of a weird. It's kind of weird. I don't know if you would call it a pattern or I don't know, maybe phenomenon. I don't know. In my experience, I've been working since I was 16. So, a good while to over a decade now. And well, I guess that's not a while for some people, but for me, it's been a while. And I've noticed that the people that you would think would be the best people aren't, you know, the people that, maybe they're wearing a cross or maybe they present themselves as going to church on Sundays and they're a good person are usually really bad people.
yeah,
Like really terrible people, really people you don't want to be around, and somebody that could have tattoos from head to toe and maybe had a really rough upbringing might be one of the most gentle, nice people you ever meet on the job site, and you would never think it based off of the way they look.
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
The Bible tells it about, or actually warns about washing the outside of the cup and not really doing anything about the inside of the cup. And, it's probably sad to say that a lot of people that are in church are working on the outside of their personality and never touch the inside of their personality.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of reasons, and even in churches, big or small. I think the people drive more people away than the religion. I think the people ruin most people's chances to even have a connection with, you know, whatever you want to believe in. And no religion is, each religion has its own different kind of people, but each kind of formed religion or something along those lines or belief system has people that ruin it for that particular thing. But, in the US, Christianity is one of the biggest religions, and you see tattoos for it, and you see crosses, and now in the modern age of Facebook and social media, you see when they check in the church, and you see when they leave church, and they take their Sunday photo, and then on Monday they're the most evil person you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Lack of care, lack of empathy, and just a pure
You definitely couldn't tell they went to church.
no, no, and a mindset that is really wanting the worst for you. And then you could see somebody that, you know, I've heard people say, I read my Bible every night. And maybe even on the job site, right? You read
Yeah.
their Bible first thing in the morning or read their devotional, and then they go out there and act like they just had a talk with the devil,
Yeah.
right? And right after morning prayers with the Lord, and people take, anything you do, people notice.
Yeah.
And so it's really noticeable when somebody does that and then are crude,
Yeah.
and it makes everybody miserable, Mm.
Well, one time at a gas station on my lunch break, some guy was really giving the lady behind the counter a piece of his mind over something that really wasn't important at all. And when he turned around, he was wearing a Grace Baptist Church shirt. And I thought, well, there's a church I don't want to go to because the way he was acting.
Oh, yeah. And I think when you label yourself a certain thing or when you claim to be something, you do put a target on your back, and none of us are exempt to it. We all do have bad days, and sometimes influence there could be some influence on the people you're around that, and not that it's right, but you could be influenced for your surroundings to act a certain way and maybe not even notice it.
Yeah.
And, we all do make mistakes every day, but, having an understanding to want to do better from a religious or a non-religious standpoint, just wanting to be genuinely a decent person in this world, I think it will go a long way. I just personally haven't seen. It's sad, but most Christians are the most nastiest people you'd ever meet,
Yeah.
at least in the construction industry. You know, there's so many people that you can meet that have went through a lot and they're so humble about their experience. And then you got somebody, like you said, that's walking around portraying a certain image and losing it on a lady at the gas station with no remorse.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a big part in maybe jealousy, or if people see you start doing good and smile, people don't like to even see you smile in reality in this world. And it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
No, you should be able to you should be happy about other people around you winning,
Yeah.
especially young people. Like kids, kids are great, and kids are, they're full of life, and they're full, especially young kids, they're very innocent.
They're
And
not jaded.
yeah, and when you see, I'm still kind of young in the industry, but I would like to think when I'm 50, 60 years old in this industry, I'd want to see winners come up, right?
Yeah.
You'd want to see some young people that are still driven and still motivated and still have the fire to be somebody. And you see so many people that they get into this industry, or any kind of blue collar construction, electrician, carpenter, plumber, any of the trades, and they get in there and they just get lukewarm immediately.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be different, they don't want to be anything special. They just want to come to work and then go home. And yeah, I guess if that's what your life is and that's what you're okay with, but if you do anything in life, you want, in my opinion, you want to be known as dependable or good, or you don't want people to say he gets his 40 and goes, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever noticed how if somebody comes in, how an attitude can affect the whole day?
Oh yeah.
One bad attitude,
One
one
smart aleck.
yeah, one person can ruin everybody's mood on a just a instant. Complaining or just being rude for no reason can really ruin the whole day.
Yeah.
And also, having a conflict at work is, it's not necessarily a good thing if you get into it with this guy and you guys are going back and forth, and we're supposed to be our brother's keeper out there. And if somebody doesn't like you, or somebody thinks screw that guy, I ain't got nothing for him. In a lot of cases, if somebody did feel that way about you, especially in the construction industry, and they seen you get hurt, they'd leave.
Yeah.
They really would say, screw that guy, and that's bad.
Yeah.
And it's hard to work with, it's hard to stay motivated, and it's hard to, it's hard to, it's hard to just do it some days when you got so many different people that just want the worst for you.
Yeah.
And it's probably in every job. I imagine office jobs are terrible for, politics and in office drama. But I think as a people, whether you're religious or not, well, I think we need to move more to really wanting the best for the people around us.
Yeah.
And you can't get jealous of somebody that goes out and does something that you're not willing to do yourself. Right? If Becky is doing better than Sam at the office, but Sam is going home every night and Becky's putting in extra effort and getting this and getting that, Sam don't have a right to even be upset with Becky because they didn't put in the same work.
Yeah.
You can't get mad that your neighbor's got a new car that goes to work every day when you sit at home and don't have a job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the mentality of a lot of people in this world right now is that they do get mad because somebody else gets something, but they don't see what suffering comes to get it,
Yeah.
you know? What determination and what, drive.
Well, that's just like years ago, there were a bunch of debates on vi- presidents and vice presidents and the kind of houses that they had. And people that don't have those kind of houses say, well, he don't need a house that big. That's just a waste. And so when people don't have something themselves, they, instead of saying, I need to work harder so I can have that house on the hill, they would rather take the house away from the guy on the hill that worked hard than themselves supplying themselves to work just as hard so that they could one day have a house on top of the hill.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think comparison, comparing yourself to anybody, even your spouse, right? Comparing your duties at the house is never gonna end with anybody smiling, right? Because you guys got different duties, I would never wanna do I would never want to trade places in certain people's lives because I know what to expect in my life. I know what the constants are, what the ups and the downs are. I know what to expect in my life, but if you went into somebody else's life that even if you think that theirs might be better than yours, you don't know what to expect and you don't know what they have to deal with.
No. Yeah.
Like some of the nicest people in the world could have the most vile wife at home that you'd
Yeah.
ever know,
Yeah.
right? And you wouldn't know that because you'd be like, man, that guy's got to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I'd love to have you guys over. And then you get them over there, and my nana told me a story one time. They joined a Bible study, or maybe it wasn't a Bible study. It was like a couples group. And so they were involved in this church, and they go to this couples group, and the people that were hosting it disappeared, and they could just hear them screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, and they're just sitting in there at their kitchen table just waiting. And then they heard some stuff flying around, and these are people from the church,
Yeah.
and then they come out and act like nothing happened, and sat down at the table, and
That's kind of weird.
yeah, what do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you say? Because you weren't expecting that outcome at all,
No.
and I think that it's so hard for people to accept what they have in their life and what they've been given. And if you don't like it, you can change it,
Yeah.
right? Like any career you think of, could you put more effort into it, right?
Yeah.
Could you get a certification? Could ask for more to elevate you over other people, There's some kind of thing that you can do in your career that can elevate you up to a higher level. It just depends on if you're
Yeah.
willing to do the discipline to get to that level.
Yeah.
And you might get to that level and realize it's not for you. But you'll never know that until you try. And, some of the best people in this world that we could look at that might have had everything, and then you hear about them on the news that, did something to themselves. And from our glass box, we're looking at them like, what do you mean? You're famous. You got this, you got the money, you got the movies. What could be wrong in your life?
Yeah.
And, you never know what they had in their closet.
Yeah. That's true.
And the problem is you can't see everybody's
Yeah.
closet. And if you walk through life and you're hateful to everybody and you crash out at the littlest things, you never know what that guy or woman could have just went through that you crashed out on.
Yeah.
I was on a job site about maybe a year ago now, and this dude was probably 6'6", maybe 310 pounds. And I'm pretty big myself. At the time I was probably 250, 6'2", 6'3", depending on what doctor you want to talk to. But he was bigger than me. I seen him come steaming up, and I could tell he was mad. And the first thing he said as he was passing me, he didn't even talk to me. He went straight to the boss. The first thing he said as he was passing me was, "You guys are effing idiots." So, we kind of knew the way the conversation was
Yeah.
going to go, right?
Uh-huh.
And so he's visibly agitated, like really losing it. And I haven't always been known to have the best temper when faced with someone cussing at me. And so I think it might have had something to do with God, or maybe just the universe looking out for me. But I kept my head in this situation, even though he was cussing at us, and he was worried about a couple pine trees that he thought was on his property because his uncle did a resurvey of the property, and his uncle said that his property line was here, but the city said his property line was there, and so but really, long story short, he wanted some money.
Yeah.
We took down a couple pine trees that were sentimental, and they're maybe 5 years old, but according to him, he grew up on them. It was his property. Those were his trees, and he wanted some money, and he wanted to be compensated. So he called the police on us, and he wanted to press charges on us, which was kind of crazy because we were just working. We were just doing
Yeah, you
our
didn't
job.
own anything around there.
And we were within the surveying stakes of our clearing limits. And so the cop came out there, and the cops was like, I don't really understand what the purpose of me out here is. And he said, well, the purpose, these guys have vandalized my property, and I want there to be some consequences. So the way I took it is he was basically saying he wanted us arrested.
Yeah.
And so, he was hot. There was 3 of them. There was 2, it was me and the boss. And so whenever he left, those guys kind of left. The police officer told us, said, hey, just be careful. That guy's kind of had a lot going on lately. His daddy came into the house and got rid of the mama and the dog, and then got rid of himself. And you would have never known that.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy was irate. And if you just went through that, rightfully so, to come in and find your parents like that, and you were the one that found them, I would imagine that would probably break something in you that might never get unbroken.
Yeah.
But if you would have handled that situation out of anger, how fast you think it could have escalated?
You never know where he could have went.
Yeah, because he went in the house a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you're at work, and you're thinking, you come over here if you want, if you want something, come get it, right?
Yeah.
He might have brought it to you
Yeah.
in a way that you weren't ready to,
Yeah.
And that's why I think it is so wise to
Always stay in control of your emotions.
yeah, because a 30-second or maybe even a 10-second loss of your emotions or temper could put you in a situation you could either be standing in the white room saying, "Is that you, God?"
Yeah.
Or you could be sitting behind a jail for the rest of your life because of a emotion that didn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the leading cause for most people that commit violent crimes or robberies, right?
Yeah. A straw that broke the camel's back
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Something bad happened to them, and so their first reaction is to take it out on somebody else around them, lost their job. So the first thing they do is go and take somebody else's stuff that didn't lose their job, or
Yeah.
or see somebody driving around in a nice car and decide that they would look better in their car.
Yeah.
And it is sad. It is sad that's the way that people have to think. And, there are some cases where people had to do stuff out of necessity.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is absolutely crazy, and I'm not a big fan of it, is say if you're homeless, right? And, y- everything in this world costs money. I mean, some days it's like you got to pay to even breathe.
Yeah.
But if you're homeless, and so say you're sleeping in a sleeping bag or a tent or wherever you have to sleep, your personal stuff, you can't even go to the lake or creek and catch a fish and eat it. I mean, you might not get caught, but a game warden could come up to you and ask you why you had permission to fish.
Yeah.
And where's your credentials?
Yeah.
You don't need no you shouldn't need no credentials in this world to fish.
Yeah.
Right? How does that make any sense? And I get it. It's because people abuse the system and there's overfishing. But if you're homeless and you go up to somebody and you could tell that they're visibly down on their luck and you hound them over something as small as a fishing license.
Yeah.
And I seen a video the other day of some people that were homeless and the game warden was like, "Oh no, you guys cannot be doing this." I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of person would even make a how can you stake claim to something that you didn't create? Right?
Yeah.
We're just gonna claim all the fish
Yeah.
as the state property,
Yeah.
right? How does that make any sense? And it is kind of sad that we live in a world that is so unwilling to help each other, and you see some people online and maybe even in person that are truly good people, and they just do so much to help so many people, but they are so few,
Yeah.
so little, and not everybody's gonna like you either.
Yeah.
And you might not even do something to somebody for them not to like you. Some people just really don't care.
Yeah.
They no matter what you do, they're not gonna like you, and some of it might stem from jealousy or I guess a lot of it is jealousy, but you could come somewhere or do something and start out. I worked for another company and the lowboy driver, right? This is crazy, we run heavy equipment, and the lowboy driver, he moves heavy equipment. Well, I had a lowboy driver tell me one time, "You shouldn't have got that company truck. They should have gave it to so-and-so. He's been here 5 years." Well, I'm sorry that so-and-so didn't make a better deal when he came in, but how does that affect me?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do anything to so-and-so. I barely know so-and-so, but it's not fair to me for you to come and yell at me because I got something that my skill helped me get,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you don't get nothing without no skill.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, and maybe your name and your connections might help you get into certain positions, and maybe certain people can help you keep that position for a while. But eventually, it's gonna come time to you're gonna have to show something to keep it,
Yeah.
and people don't understand that. And people that aren't willing to put in the same amount of work with you as you are the first ones that are complaining about what they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you heard people complain about hours at work?
A whole lot.
How many times have you heard those same people complain when you got to work a weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. If we don't get no hours, I don't know what I'm going to do. Fellas, we got we're kind of busy right now. We need to work Saturday. I ain't working no Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you want here?
Yeah. That's true.
You complain about you don't have this, and then you complain that you do got this. How can I make you happy? What would you say about, being your brother's keeper, whether it's in work or just in life in general?
Well, it's good in theory, but people are also in competition. So be your brother's keeper, but also everybody would like to have an advantage. I work for Strax, and one thing I noticed at a Christmas party is it was really hard to get close to Joe Strax, the owner, because everybody was over there trying to rub shoulders with him. And, it's hard to, it was like people were fighting for his attention. And that's that competition that everybody's got because they would like to move up. And in construction, there's not a lot of room to move up. So people have to get creative and find an angle to stand out over top of their coworker. So you you almost can't have a culture of be your brother's keeper at work, because the reality is your coworker will set you up. He'll just set you up if he has his eye on your job. He don't want to be your keeper. He wants to be your replacement. And so, it's hard to have those two positions are opposed to each other. Now, you could be your brother's keeper in safety. Most people are good-hearted people that they don't want to see you get squashed. But just short of getting squashed, they'll let you drive off of they'll let you back into a truck.
Oh, yeah.
So that they can get that truck one day because they're in the passenger seat and they would like to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot has to do with you got to watch your back all the time. And in any industry. I mean, if you're a doctor and you make one mistake trying to save somebody's life, they're potentially going to want to sue you over it, right?
Yeah.
You just tried to save their loved one's life, and now they're in the next room hating you for it, right?
Yeah.
A police officer shows up to try to help in a situation. It could be worse for him even showing up, you know? The pastor in the church is trying to do something for you, and, it's a lot of perspective. You can choose to look at one thing. You could take a lot of situations and choose to look at it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And a thing I heard the other day is, say you ask God for peace, right? Well, or maybe not peace. Say you ask God for patience, right? How is, in my personal opinion, anytime, yeah, I don't care who's preaching on Sunday, if you're a follower in Jesus, it's never been easy.
Yeah.
Right? There's people trying you all the time. And I've prayed for, give me guidance, give me peace. Well, sometimes that patience that you pray for, he's going to teach you patience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're over there thinking, what is going on right now? Why can I not catch a break? Well, you prayed to give you patience.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that lesson didn't have to come as, here's patience.
Yeah.
100%. Now you got to learn that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Lord, I'd like to do better and succeed. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you succeed, but there's going to be a lot of heartache before then, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to see through that. It's hard to make it through that lesson. And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you're over there thinking, all right, Lord, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I don't even need patience anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even like the thought of patience because, we ask for something and when we get it, we don't like it the way, it's not it'd be like asking your spouse, when I get home, I want dinner on the table. Well, when you come in and there's a sandwich on the table and you're over there looking like, this is not what I meant by dinner. That's what you asked for, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's so much we can learn. And I think at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is if you could go through life and every day, and we're all going to fall short of this, and this is a goal, but it's a goal that, in my opinion, you could use every day, and the goal could never be bad. Like, the goal could never have any bad on you. And you might come into contact with people that just truly are evil people and don't care about nothing. But if you walk through every day and you treated everybody like you were standing beside Jesus, how could your life change?
Yeah.
Right? Whether or not they're good or bad people, if you treated everybody in your life like you were standing beside Jesus at any given moment, you would have to have more peace, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is, just treat people with decency and respect.
Yeah.
And if you say you stand for something, and you say you identify as this, or be it, whatever you say, do. If you give somebody your word, do it. If you want that certain career, do it. If you want to get a raise at work, do the work to get the raise. But don't get the raise at the extent of stepping on somebody else's back to get that raise.
Yeah.
Or pushing over a coworker when he's running up the stairs, so he falls down, breaks his arm, and he's got to be out for 6. Do what you need to do to where you could be proud of it later at the end of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's all I got today. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All righty. Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah.